Hey everybody, we have our final race report of the 2022 season, Ödyssey's Swimrun Austin race. We snagged second place in the long course men's team. We can't wait to tell you all about it. Stay tuned for a little bit of rock flute. Welcome to the Low Tide Boys, a swimrun podcast. I'm Chip.
And I'm Chris, and this is episode 149 of the show. It is done, people. We just got back from Ödyssey Swimrun Austin for our fifth and final race of the year. And on this episode, we're sharing our recap of one of our favorite events on the U.S. circuit. This was our third time racing Austin, and it's become a tradition to close out our year in beautiful Paceman Park. And I think it's safe to say that the positive swimrun vibes were omnipresent all weekend.
Absolutely.
And it's also safe to say that fun was had by all.
I believe it to be true.
At least everyone that was coming up to us.
That we saw.
No one was like, you guys let us wrong, man. You guys suck. No one was saying that.
We've not had that yet.
Nope.
Let's keep it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great time in Austin. And let's dive into it. We were Concho Boys less. No Concho Boys joined us on this thing, but we got to hang out with Phil, one of the swimrun monks.
Monk 2, I believe.
Monk 2?
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know that he had a number associated with him. One of the monks, Phil, joined us. So we flew in on Friday and picked Phil up from the airport, and we headed back to we got some grub, and then went back to the hotel to rest up for the exciting shakeout swimrun we had planned for Saturday.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. So, we've done a lot of swimrun shakeouts, Saturday
fourth
shakeouts.
Or fifth,
yeah, we're on like 4 or 5 or something. But the first one we did was actually last year at Austin.
Yeah, that's right, huh?
And that was super cool. A bunch of people showed up. We're doing the cliff jump. And this year, Chipper, when we were having lunch, you actually counted all the heads. What was it?
53 people.
53 people showed up. Like, I think it was like a third of the race or something. It was crazy.
Everyone was kind of gathering, and I think we're also stacking the odds for ourselves to make it easier.
Well, here's the thing: we were in the parking lot, and there's people in the parking lot. It's like, oh, we should go into the little mess hall and just put our stuff and start there, since that's where we said we'd meet with people. And we walk in, and it's like full of people.
There's
in
a bunch of people already in there, ready to rock, ready to do a swim run.
Wow, it's crazy.
They look ready to swim run. So I mean, honestly, sincerely appreciate everybody that always comes out to these things. I know we say this, and I don't know if people believe us or not, but sometimes we really think there might just be 5 people here that show up, which would totally be fine, and we would still have a great time. But 50 plus people was a little bit mind blowing, and the picture that we took there on the IG as well.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. Yeah, so we did that little shakeout, and we hung around at Packet Pickup, and we met a bunch of folks, and it's getting harder and harder to remember everyone's names.
We're gonna have to be on the record. We're gonna have to bring a recorder. Name and rank.
We're trying. We're trying really hard. So if we missed you, we're super sorry. It's not for a lack of love. It's just for lack of mental capacity more than anything.
Yes, and totally. So let's get into it. We definitely are gonna have missed folks that we saw, and I guess if you're one of the regulars that we meet on a regular basis, you know who you are. We know who you are.
Yeah, we're not.
And you're
we're
very
not
special
shouting you
to
out.
us, but we're in the interest of time.
These
we're
will
going
get
to
too
spare
long.
you.
Tip of the hat to all of you.
Yes.
You know who you are.
So Lisa and Paul made it all the way from New Hampshire.
Yeah, trained with one of our favorite people, the only member of the Feats of Endurance Hall of Fame.
Yes.
So,
Amber.
Yeah, Ferreira. Yeah,
episode 12, if you're really interested.
Yeah, yeah. Dig deep for that one. Yeah, so Paul and Lisa, they train up there with, I think it's called the Granite State Speed
Endurance
Project or something.
Yeah.
Endurance Project. So yeah, it was great that they came down.
Yeah. Tracy and Sarah, who are a couple cool ladies from Portland.
Yep, Casco regulars coming down to Texas.
Love it.
So good.
Love to see it.
Yeah, so Chris and Sarah and Ben and Sarah from Traverse Fitness, and I mean, every interaction I have with people from this gym makes me think that if I'm ever living in Denver for some random reason, like this is my gym. This is just going to be my gym. Like, I
don't know, man. Have you seen their Instagrams? They get
I know it's hardcore.
They get pretty crazy.
I know it's hardcore, but I'm here for it. And they had, they all had awesome races. So yes. Congrats
more on
as well.
More on Chris and Sarah later.
Yeah.
Kate Klein joined us. Thank you kindly.
From Chicago. She did the marathon and it was like, oh, that's over. Now it's time to prep for my A race, because Chicago Marathon was just like a little warm up for her.
Yeah, it's just a little, get the legs turned over a little bit. Fun fact, I believe Illinois was one of the top represented states at Ödyssey Austin Swimrun.
Wow.
So that was pretty cool. There's a couple Chicago folks.
Yeah. So Fred, who's Lisa Decker's partner from Kansas, Lisa couldn't make it, but Fred came up and just did it solo. And
got to represent from Kansas. Yeah. Love to see it. Love to see it, Fred.
Yeah.
Fred came up. He's like, can I get a picture with you guys to make Lisa jealous? I'm like, no problem, Fred. We'll make it happen.
Well, I heard from Lisa, who's like, Fred, he's already he's
in.
He's all in.
Oh,
he's
great.
All in on the Low Tide Boys after meeting us. So
we're gonna get a T-shirt purchase coming through from Fred here any minute. I foresee it.
Yeah, and we have to do a little special shout out
to so special
to our esteemed guests from the UK, Alex Sheen, and then Bill and Chrissy Langford, who came out. They had various reasons to making out. One had a brother there. One is they were just going on a little vacation where they proposed to each other, and it was just super great. Really appreciate it, and it's totally deepened my inspiration and I want to get a bunch of European people. Well, I want to go to the UK, but I want to get a bunch of European folks to come to Casco.
That will be. We need to. This is the initial Low Tide Boys incubating of the idea.
Yeah,
but we need to try to make Casco Bay 2023 an international flavored race.
Definitely.
Well, that's a statement, right?
Anyway, sorry for that tangent.
It's okay. That's that's all we do here.
Yeah,
tangent after tangent. Andrea, it was so awesome to meet her after many Instagram messages and seeing her post and her journey on her training to her very first swim run here. And as she reported back only a day or two later, that she's hooked.
Yeah.
Which we already knew. We already knew that was going to happen.
Spoiler alert, mission accomplished. So congrats, Andrea. Great race. And then finally, Tarek, who's buddies with Justin and James, who are Justin and James are from our Tri Club. Old time friends, known these guys for years. So Justin and James actually did Catalina. That was their last swim run until this one.
Yeah, and they were. I know Justin he was chomping at the bit to do a couple more this year, but unfortunately wasn't able to make that. Funny enough, I was actually sitting next to James on the flight over. I didn't even realize it.
Yeah.
And I can't believe I'm omitting the story now, but I'm sitting there. Safe space?
Yeah.
Okay. No one's listening anyway. And I'm sitting there and I just, I look over at someone's phone next to me and you know how it displays what music they're listening to? I look over at the corner of my eye and it's the Low Tide Boys. He's listening to the Low Tide Boys.
Do a little double take.
And I was like, brr? And I had my hat on, so I was like, well, I don't know, maybe this guy just saw my hat and then decided like, oh, what's this? And look it up. But then he was listening to it. And I was like, I was getting freaked out, and I was going to say something to him, but I also didn't want to come across like, hey, I was looking at your phone. I see you're listening to my podcast. Hi. But anyway, we ended up chatting for the last third of the flight.
I thought your method, you basically took your hat off and conveniently positioned it.
And just pointed it toward him and just like, oh, water, cookie, Low Tide Boys hat. How can we interest you? So great time. Hopefully I feel I was in the middle seat, but I did share the half of the armrest with James. I just want to put that out there.
Yeah, I don't know how the rules go. I think the middle seat you get both armrests because the other person has one on the side.
That's what I would think, but I don't really.
Since it is a crappy seat, you should at least get a couple armrests out of it.
Exactly. Yeah, you got to let the wings put the wings out a little bit. But
yeah, well. Anyway, man, this is having a rough time. Season's over, right?
Yeah, we're already in off season mode here.
So that was a shakeout. It was super fun. It was so great to chat with everyone, and I mean, from what I could tell, enthusiasm was high. Now, going into race morning, we knew there were some changes on the course. was already a little bit different than it was before because we didn't have access to the Girl Scout camp or whatever that camp was that we went through years past. Water level was super low, so there was no cliff jumping, but there was also more sort of bouldering in and out of transitions.
Yes, so this was something that Lars and Aaron talked about on kind of the race meeting, and I was very eager to see how low the water levels actually were, because we had seen some pictures, and I mean they were definitely low, but spoiler alert, plenty of swimming to be had.
There was plenty of water.
There was plenty of water to be swimming in.
Yeah, so we were like, oh yeah, all these like 1,000-yard swims are going to be like 600. They were all as advertised.
They were all, yeah, exactly how Lars drew it up. But yeah, to your point, it added a really cool other element to the race of more kind of scrambling on the swim exit, since it's kind of a canyon of sorts that you have to get out of, and there's no steps or anything, so you have to make your way up on the rocks, which ended up really enjoying it and making it even a more fun adventure.
Yeah, and a little foreshadowing, it actually was to our advantage, that terrain.
I agree.
But yeah, so race morning, Phil, Monk 2, and us, we jump in the car, we get to the race, no worries, get there early, we do a shakeout run, see our friends, and Phil, not to make this, he can give his own race report if he wants, but he was looking good. He was first solo event. He was doing the long course. He had an awesome race, and you could just tell like
he was still charged up from a really great Attila experience that he had. He was very charged up.
Yeah, I mean I don't know. We were talking about Sweden for a long time during this trip, but yeah. So he was looking good. He was looking ready. That got me super stoked. Mark Fananger, the voice of Swimrun, was there.
He was.
Lois Fananger, the chef of Swimrun, was there.
Did you see, I confronted her about this. There was 2 giant sheet pans, like the biggest sheet pans I've ever seen. Must have been 36 by 24 inches. One had brownies on it, and the other one had Rice Krispies with chocolate drizzled on top. And they were just like sitting out. It's just, I think it's kind of like, she can't help herself. She just has to feed people.
Yeah. So when I saw the brownies, there's a bunch of people there. I was like, hey, is anything in those?
Yeah. Were these good? You guys tripping? You guys tripping?
Yeah, it was.
Well,
it definitely didn't.
I didn't partake, so I can't comment on the brownies.
Me neither. But yeah, so race morning, I think the build for this race was interesting, and I think it's worth talking about.
Yeah.
So, I'm working on this tattoo, so my swimming has been pretty limited, but everything else, I've still been training pretty good, was feeling pretty good for this race. But almost like in years past, when we came to Austin, our sort of fitness levels were a little bit mismatched, which just required like more communication. I mean, Chipper, just super busy with work and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I don't, not a secret, I guess. I've just been feeling a little bit lack of, I guess, motivation it is, and maybe I'm a little bit burnt out even after Attila. I very excited to do both Swimrun NC and Austin. Like the fire's still there, but the motivation I was just really mightily struggling with for this. So yeah, I mean, to Chris's point, I definitely was not where I wanted to be from a fitness point of view. But our sort of approach, and this is, I guess, sort of like what we had already known coming in. It was like, okay, Chris has a swimming situation. I have my, lack of motivation, not fitness, lack of fitness situation going on, but we still are going to give it our all of what we have. And that's kind of how we've been doing.
Yeah. So that's where I kind of wanted to go with it, because I think that Swimrun NC in this race almost like are a good little sort of a continuing experiment in sort of racing where you're just kind of allowing whatever scenarios kind of come to you without trying to control as much of it, where it's like, okay, well, we're going to do this, we're going to try to push here and do that. But I think we were, we've raced, this year alone, we've raced enough to kind of be like, we're good for it. Kind of like whatever happens, we'll be able to address it, and make an appropriate decision at the time. And, and that's where, I feel like we found this really interesting sort of equanimity in these last couple of races. And maybe it's because they weren't A races and sort of we were just in a different headspace, or maybe it's like after doing like the world champs, we're just like, our mind has been transported into a different plane where it's like it's just hard to get up for for a race that isn't that. I mean, shit.
I don't know.
But despite all that, I think the second that gun went off,
game on,
and as usual, started off kind of hot, dude. What's going on with these races, man? Don't people know they gotta chill?
Don't they listen to the show? And we're just like, let's be chill, people. Let's be chill when it starts. And yeah, I mean, Marcus was there, and Beek did not race us once, so the FAM Spica wasn't happening. So it was Marcus with Jared Schumacher, who did one water race. He also did a swim in North Carolina. Very experienced adventure racer, swim runner as well, Olympian. All
just
very
throw
cool.
that in.
I'll just throw that on the top there. So, I mean, to Chris and I, they weren't in our race. They were doing their own. They were doing their own race. And something a little bit different from this year's past is there was a lot more running, a few more run legs added onto this. But yeah, the first run, instead of, I can't remember, I think it was somewhere around a mile is what it used to be, but this one was a little bit more, is 1.75 miles. And we definitely threw down a pretty good clip. I mean, immediately this pack kind of shot up the front, and we kind of went out more controlled than others, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, we were still, so those first couple of miles were sort of like 7:10s.
Yeah.
Which was pretty spicy, but it also, I mean, it didn't feel like it was totally out of hand. The front teams kind of took off, and we ended up running with teams Batman's parents, who've been on the show before, Liz and Jacob, and we saw them throughout the race, which was really fun. They started pulling away because they're, elite professional triathletes and stuff, because that's what they do. And I kind of let them go.
Yes, that was
so
good.
I was trying to be really smart about that.
You have been very good about that this year.
Yeah, my Seabiscuit complex, I think I finally have it under control. But
I will say it probably helps that I was running well out of my above fitness range, and I probably sounded like I was huffing and puffing pretty good on that first one.
Yeah, so we'll get to that a little later, but there was definitely a point where I made a tactical decision that I think probably helped our race later on. But yeah, going into this first transition, I mean, I kind of already knew we've been transitioning really well, so it's kind of in our head. It's like, hey, we're gonna win special teams, so to speak, like transitioning in and out. So this first transition, if you look at the photos that are on the Ödyssey site,
all 8,400.
I mean, I think it's gallery 1 or 2 or something. I mean, there was a lot of carnage.
Mud carnage.
I mean, just ridiculous. People going in like knee deep and stuff. And somehow, when we got there was definitely some teams, maybe like 4 or 5 teams that were transitioning in the water, and they're sort of navigating it. And you and I like basically just run right past them and just go in and go. And like in a second, we like passed all these teams who then caught us in the water. But that was just such a crisp transition. It was almost like we're just trying to like cut the line almost.
It really carried over our momentum that we had. One, obviously at Attila, there's 56 something transitions, so we got a lot of practice on that, and not everyone was as crispy as a freshly minted bill or anything. But Swimrun NC, I felt like we had 80-90% of our transitions were highly rated, 8 out of 10 or higher on my scale that I just made up. So we carried a lot of that momentum in, and I was taking the lead on the swims and charged down, and I heard a couple people, "Oh, I'm stuck, there's mud." And I think we've both been doing really good about being more prepared and getting ready earlier. I know you had mentioned that you were doing a little bit of a different kind of strategy for your transitions.
Yep. This is something I saw Hugo and Max do, who are my transition senseis or whatever, which is just, essentially just putting on your goggles like way earlier and just making sure that's set and out of the way.
Yeah. And
then, having the pull buoy ready to be engaged. So as I'm getting close to the water, all I'm really doing is just putting my paddles on, and then right at the last minute, just pop the buoy in and go.
Yeah. So it might have even been Liz or Jacob there, and they were like, "Oh, there's mud here," and they were kind of getting stuck. And I just took 1 or 2 steps, and then I kind of did the dive in, and you were ready, which was great. And in an it enabled us to just blast right off. So I just kept swimming and hit it as good as I could. And we did get the pack that we sort of left behind in transition one caught back up with us for that second run there, and I was definitely pretty that first transition out was a lot of scaling, running up the hill, and kind of a little bit of rock climbing, and very not just flat running. And I definitely felt my heart rate jacking up pretty good on that for a shorter. That's just a mile run, and then that second swim that we went into, which was 1,000 or a 950 swim, which was the opposite of what we did on our swim run shakeout. So if you joined us for the shakeout, you got a lot of experience with this particular swim. You did it at least 3 times.
Yeah.
And that's one that you actually led.
Right. So that after that first swim, that run, it was pretty gnarly to get up and out and start running again. And we were already tethered, but we were kind of running side by side. And I mean, I heard you huffing and puffing.
I was, I mean, I think getting up out of the thing just jacked my heart rate, plus the swim, plus it never came down from the first run. So I wasn't in a good way, and I was like, this is going to be a very painful day for me if I don't get this turned.
And also, so I mean, I think safe to say I was feeling good, but this is a team sport, and me like killing Chipper, how does that help? What good does that do? Essentially, it's like we need to, like in anything, you need to handle the situation that you're dealt with. And I think the decision I made, without even really talking about you, we're out sort of mentioning it to you, is I led that second swim, which was 950 meters. And I was like, well, if I lead this, Chipper will get a nice chance to recover, because coming up out of that swim, we were going to have a 3.5 mile run. Mm-hmm. And while we got pretty lucky that it was overcast for most of the day, like that was my fear. I was like, if the sun comes out and starts getting hot,
it's even worse.
And whenever it would peak out, you would be like, ooh, like get back in the shade.
5 degrees warmer,
it's like
instantly.
Like a vampire. It's like, stay out of the sun.
No.
Yeah, so that swim, I thought I did a good job until probably the last 200 meters where, just team started catching and passing. I was like, damn it.
As I phrased it, the L train, Liz from Team Batman Parents just comes screaming in from the back, all aboard. So no passengers though, just Jacob.
Yeah, it's like he's holding on for dear life. I try to hold on, it wasn't happening. So we get out and we're with them, and it's like them and then a solo
guy there,
a short course solo guy. And we start basically this super long run, and I think there's some good swimmer moments where like Liz and Jacob like completely missed the turn, just like they didn't see this. I mean, there was an arrow, like they didn't see it, and you and me were at the same time. We're like, yo
Liz, Jacob, hold
over here, and they turned around and we ended up getting ahead of them for that reason. But then there was a swim coming up, so it wouldn't have mattered anyway. So that run was classic. I think it's safe. Race is 3 years old. Classic Ödyssey Austin. Yes. Routes up and down, left and right. Kind of some Attila vibes.
Loose
rocks. Some area exposed. But nothing. Maybe they'd be like 100 yards where it'd just be kind of flat and good to go. But very twisty.
Yeah, I forgot how twisty. I mean, I feel like you're never really taking 5 steps in a straight line. It's like you're zigging and zagging, turning and twisting sort of thing. Yeah. We did dial, it felt like we dialed that pace back a little bit on that run, which obviously was helpful for me. I looked at my heart rate file after, and I was definitely squarely in tempo for the majority of the race, majority of the running, I will say. So that was good for me, but I did feel like we had a good manageable pace. We did keep the tether more engaged, and it was tauter than it had been in past, for sure. But I thought we did a good job of managing to whatever the situation is or was at that point. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that was that did totally help me. You taking that swim, I felt rejuvenated upon exit and ready to kind of put in some good work, and I knew like, okay, there's more running coming up. You just got to deal with it, and let's keep going.
And honestly, that swim for me was also like, that swim was basically as much swimming as I've done in the last few weeks. And it was like, I just wanted to be like, all right, let me just see what's possible here.
Yeah.
Just to kind of see where I'm at with everything. And again, I was good for sort of 800 meters.
Yeah. You did
which is good to know. But it was like, hey, if I had to do like, a 600 meter or something at the end, I was like, okay, like I just want to see where everything is at, which was good. Yeah. So that run, we go into what I guess is the longest swim of the day. So swim 3, which was 1,000 meters.
Yeah, okay.
Again, all these swims are very, I don't want to say uneventful because you still have to swim and stuff, but it's like not technical. There really wasn't any chop or anything.
You're just
that we
going
could
out
see.
right along the shore. You go up, you see a flag, you go in. It's very, very manageable.
Yeah, I would just say like the entrances and exits were really fun. Even some where you're going down the boat ramp, like you and I would just kind of straddle the side and just kind of rock hop a little bit and jump in, which I think worked well. After that swim, which you led, was the second of these 3 long runs, which was run 4, which was basically 3.2 miles, and that's the one that takes you to the southmost point and the out and back, which is really the only place where you see folks. So we saw Phil, we saw Emily. We didn't see Marcus.
No, we did not see Marcus and Jared.
Jared. Yeah, we saw Scott. And we started seeing. I felt like I started to get a sense of where we were. I thought we were in like 3rd or 4th place at that point.
You had your earplugs in on the second run. Lars, who major kudos, did a tremendous job on the Instagram. So he was doing live kind of post mini race updates during the thing. I thought it was really great. Yep. But he had said once that we were the second men's team, or third team overall, because at that point I think Liz and Jacob were ahead of us. And so, we were feeling good about that. But again, we didn't come to this race like, oh yeah, let's get on the podium or let's do anything like that. But it's also cool.
Yeah, egos are still in. We still have them and all that. Yeah, so I didn't hear that at all. Which I don't know if that was, in hindsight, maybe that was like a good thing.
You're going to tell you in the future?
No,
okay. It didn't affect anything.
It didn't matter. Yeah, it didn't matter exactly. We knew we had like. I wouldn't say we were like running scared or anything, but we knew what we were working with by that point, and it was like, all right, we just need to have a manageable effort.
Yeah.
Where we still feel like we're pushing a little bit, but not pushing so much that it's that you're going to blow something.
So on that out and back, because we did manage to get ahead of Liz and Jacob on that one piece, and again, our transitions, we were being really tight about it, and I think we were leaving people behind, like putting 30 seconds, maybe a minute into them, which was good because we were running 15, 30 seconds a minute off per mile pace of what we normally would have. So we it was a good that we were able to afford our time there. And this is where I feel like on that run, we turned into a little bit of a carrot, the Low Tide Boys carrot, I will say, because we passed Chris from Colorado.
Oh, Chris and Sarah.
And I heard Chris say, "There they are," after they passed us. And I'm like, oh, is he talking about us? So that got me thinking, oh, he might be coming. They might be coming for us, which is fine. I got no problems with people coming for us and trying to get us.
Also,
if that makes your race more fun.
That's their second swim run, and they podiumed.
They
had an awesome race.
Yes.
Damn.
Very, but more on that later.
Yeah,
but that's a little tease.
Yeah, definitely more on that later. Yeah, so we finished. So we do that and back, see some folks, and then we start heading towards the east side of Pacebend Park to basically start making our way back. I guess once you hit the turnaround, you're
technically
on your way
home.
back.
Yeah.
And then there's a short swim. Which that one is I think that's the swim where I was like, man, this water is super low, because at last year's shakeout, that's where we ran to jump in off those rocks to just kind of hop in and then go do the exit. And those rocks were super high.
We had to climb down more, like 2 or 3 more steps.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Those rocks were super high from the water level, which made that exit of that swim, what swim was that? That swim,
Swim 4, the
swim
500
4,
meters?
Yeah, swim 4, that exit was always kind of technical, probably the most technical exit of the whole race, because you really had to boulder out of this cove.
It was a lot of like, here, let me help the person behind, let me give you a little butt shove, like whatever, helping teams up.
I think they even had like a rope or something. But yeah, so that transition was really interesting because it was just more of that because the water was
it was like 3 times. But I mean, we were talking about this after the race. I truly enjoyed all that stuff. I thought it made it way more fun and more of an interesting race, and it added another element to an already fun adventure that we were having. And then we jammed the little half-mile run to where the cliff jumps would have been to enter the water where we normally, when we had bypassed the cliff jumps in years past, kind of went there. And we were running, and Chris is like, ow, ow.
Yeah, so I, on that transition out or something, I must have gotten some sort of pebble or shell piece in my shoe that kind of lodged right under sort of the pad of my big toe.
Oof, ouch.
So every step, felt like I was kind of getting jabbed with a needle. So I started running kind of on the outside of my foot while I'm trying to wiggle my toes to try to do whatever. And as we're sort of jumping on rocks down to get to that swim entrance, like every time I'm just like,
ow,
ouch. Am I bleeding now? Is this blood? Do I have blood in my shoe? I can't tell because everything's wet, right?
Yeah.
So during that swim, so I tell you that. It's like, hey, I have a situation here. Let's see if I can clear it in this swim. Because, when you're swimming, you can move your toes and get some extra water flow in there. And I was just trying to dislodge it. And I thought I did. We finished that swim, which again was uneventful.
Onto the beach, Mud Cove Beach.
Mud Cove Beach, yeah. So we get out, take 4 steps. I'm like, nope. So we basically just stopped because it's like I got a flat tire essentially. Took the shoe off, managed to clear it, and I was just like, oh, thank God, because if I couldn't clear that, like, it would have just been.
It also
sucked.
I mean, of course. It didn't matter that we stopped. That's totally fine. I set us back more time by not running as fast as I could have ran than you stopping. So there's no harm, no foul. But I was like, wow, it takes a long time to undo double knotted shoes that are wet and pull your laces and undo this. And I was just thinking like, okay, I'm glad we don't have to do this all the time because if this is a problem, it could definitely become a thing. And
and we can talk about the gear sort of after the race, but usually my amphibs is that quick lace, so that would have been way easier in that context to take it out because you could just pull the thing, pull the ripcord and it comes out. With the shoes we were wearing, the Adidas Terrex Speed Ultras,
240s.
The 240s, they just have regular laces. So
for now,
but yeah, so managed to get that sorted, and then it was like, all right, this is basically our last big run. The run back, which is really, I mean. We've done this race 3 times, and there was only a couple points where I'm like, I remember this part.
Yeah, the
terrain is just so
I'm
wacky.
looking at it on the map right now. It's so wiggly and twisty. And to that point, when you were taking your shoe off, I was observing what was happening behind us, who was approaching. And I saw a few teams that were kind of getting close to getting down, into the water or like on the way of the swim. I'm like, okay. I'm like trying to do math. I'm like 3 miles. We're running slower than they probably are. I'm like, this is going to be close. This could be close. So we started taking off, and I mean we were going, I think at a good clip for what we could manage. And there's a point where you turn back onto the road to run back into Camp Tex Lake. And because the hill country in Texas is so windy. It's really hard to tell, like, is the team behind us 100 yards behind us? Are they a half mile? You can't see them, you can't hear them. And then all of a sudden we started hearing Chris and Sarah. I don't know why I spaced on that. Sorry, Sarah. And they're coming for us. And Sarah is throwing down some spicy pace on the pavement and
so I will say this is where, what I said before that I think I have my Seabiscuit complex in check. Yeah. This is where it reared its ugly head.
Okay.
For sure. Because
you're not a perfect person.
Yeah. Just can only try every day. Right. so that was this run on the road where you're running down to the boat ramp to do the last swim of the day. And I know that road. I was like calling out, it's like, hey, this is the last hill, like all this stuff. And yeah, I mean, I put in an effort. The tether was this
I was like, I know Chris is gonna charge up this hill, so I need to come with him.
Yeah, it's like, I know this is. I don't know if it helps you when it's that. Is it like I'm pulling you a little bit?
No, I mean, I was fully aware that the pace was going to be accelerating up the hill.
Yeah, I mean, and you can feel it too, right? I mean, that's the beauty of the tether. Like, I mean, he'd you, and I didn't have to tell him, which is what makes for a good partnership. Yeah. But yeah, they passed us, or they caught up with us, and we started kind of running with them. It was great to see them. I mean, they're having an awesome race. We're super stoked for them.
Having a lot of fun.
Yeah, and Sarah, she was a machine. Like she was going for it. And yeah, and Chris, he was just like
he was holding on for dear life.
Going on. So at one point we turned the corner, and I let Chipper lead because I don't know if he wanted to hit the aid station or not. But I was like, I'm just going to let him make this decision.
And I was going to lead the swim too. So that's something that we've kind of started doing as well a little bit. Is like, I've just been sort of coming in front the last 1/10 of a mile, maybe even 1/4 of a mile, to really kind of charge it in, and I think that's helping with our efficiencies.
Sure, yeah, like if we know who's leading, it's not like, are you ready? You ready to go? Like, right, you get in front. Like,
I think when we first started, or a couple years into it, we'd like kind of be approaching. We're like, oh, how do you feel? You wanna lead the swim? And now it's like, okay, I'm just gonna do it.
Right, yeah, or that conversation would have happened like way earlier, right?
Yeah, totally.
And yeah, so I think tactically, this is where, if this means anything to anyone, like where we made our move, because Sarah and Chris stopped at the aid station, and they were maybe, I don't know, 20, 30 yards in front of us.
Yeah.
And you, I forget what you said, but you're like, screw it.
It's
like, let's go.
To that effect.
And I was like, all right. I mean, shit. So we go down the boat ramp, descend the steps, and basically, just without even really looking back, we just jump in and go.
Just jump in and yeah, I was like,
again, super crisp. Like by the time we were running on the ramp, on the boat ramp, like we were already, like, goggles were on, everything was ready to go.
We were ready to jump.
Yeah.
And so we hit the water, and I just started going, because what I really didn't want to happen was some sort of finish line 50-yard, 100-yard sprint situation, which I totally did not have the matches for at the time. So I'd rather burn all the rest of my matches.
And I was actually thinking about this. Like, I would have vetoed any sort of race. Like if it was like Chris and Sarah and they were like right there, I'm like, go guys, you guys have this.
I mean, we're not even racing. Yeah. We're not even racing them. They're not even our category. But Seabiscuit complex affects everybody, I guess.
Yeah, but I think for that one, I would have been like, you know what, like, because
so we go do that swim again for like the 3rd time or 4th time in 2 days.
Yeah, fourth time in 2 days, 3rd time,
and we knew what the exit was like, and we had been feeling good about our transitions the whole day, and we just fire off and go up. And I told Chris, I'm like, I think they're coming for us. We better get going. No lollygagging.
And yeah, exactly. So what we did, which this is an old school sort of road marathon thing, is where there's a turn. You put in kind of a burst, so you're out of sight. So we definitely, I mean, it was the 2nd time we did that scramble, 3rd time we did that scramble. So we kind of knew where we were going to, so we just got the hell out of there and got on that last run to head home.
Yeah, the 1/2 mile or 0.4 mile run in, and
it actually turned out to be kind of a non-issue because like the whole race we were sort of stretching these rubber bands kind of thing, and I think it wasn't until the end where it was just like, we just had, and again, I think it was special teams. I think it was transitions that really helped us sort of kind of punch above our weight class.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I felt that people were putting a faster run pace than what we were able to do. Mostly me, or only me.
No, it's we.
And I think our swims I think they were fine. There was definitely some teams that were out swimming us, but we sort of did the swim running thing.
Yeah,
really, really high marks.
That's
right.
That's how you mentioned it
teams.
After the race. It was like we were swim running really well today.
Yeah, we were doing it. We were putting it all together.
Yeah,
the whole flow of it, so to speak, not the components necessarily. Right. We weren't totally outmatching everybody on like a run or swim level, but I think all the transitions and the scrambling, we were able to like really kind of show what we had there.
Yeah, so we crossed the finish line. The voice of Swimrun, Mark Vananger, brought us in. Turns out that we finished the race in 3 hours and 14 minutes and 16 seconds, which was good enough for second place men's team. 16 points, a million points, but 16 minutes behind the first place team of Marcus and Jared, and we were 6th overall if you include the short course solo athletes.
Yeah, second overall team as well.
Yeah, and Phil Monk 2, 3rd place.
Got
strong work.
Some hardware.
Yeah,
on the
strong
way
work. Yeah, so it was a great race. It was super fun. I think, like mentioned before, if we can just go straight into kind of like final thoughts.
You want to talk about gear first?
We should talk about gear.
Okay, so you don't even need to know, but you don't even need to guess, but the VIGs were warm. Of course, that was going to happen. We saw the forecast was going to be, I think around 10 or 11 was going to be into the 80 degrees, so we knew that the VIG was going to happen. And Chris,
the water was super warm from the day before.
The water was also very warm from our swim run shakeout, so we were able to definitely knew we had the right suit choice for that. Kangaroo top, of course, something that Chris and I both wore, along with it seems like half the other swim runners that we saw is these new Adidas Terex shoes, the 240s that Chris mentioned.
Yeah, the Terex Speed Ultra.
Ultras.
If you're searching for them.
Yes, we'll have something on that, some link on our site somewhere. You can find it there. But yeah, I wore these. I would say these are not my usual type of shoe that I wear. But I kind of wanted to feel a little bit more racier and a little bit quicker, and these are definitely a more racier and quick shoe. And I was not disappointed. The grip, very, very good. Comfort was fine. I had no issues. It's not like my dogs were barking after 3 and whatever hours. But what did you think of I think these are going to be your new go-tos.
Yeah, so I'll give the short take, and then there's going to be a Gear Talk quick hits about this.
I'm sure.
Yeah, so I've been a huge fan of the Salomon Amphib 2s, and I've used those basically every swim run except for 2. And yeah, I mean, I was actually talking to Marcus about this. I think these new shoes are really great, and while their lugs are smaller, the grip really compensates for that. You don't need to have this huge lugs, so it makes it kind of easier to run, and the pattern is almost like a gravel bike tire. So it's very directional and makes a lot of sense from a design perspective. But yeah, I was telling Marcus, like, I don't really see a scenario where I would wear the Amphibs over these.
Yeah,
and I wore the Amphibs at the World Champs and stuff. And
I mean, the Amphibs, that technology they're using is 5-6 years old now, at least at this point, right? And this is like these are brand new shoes that we're talking about here. So I mean, there's a lot of comfort and a lot of technology that's happened in the shoe.
I wonder if Adidas even knows or cares that they have this like random shoe that's
this magic swim run shoe. We can hit them up and let them know.
Shit.
But yeah, and then any other new? Chris and I are retiring our buoys, our Arc Heel Pluses. They're going on the shelf of fame in Studio G here in the garage. We got some fresh foam for 2023, and I'm taking the opportunity to switch up my mount. I'm going to test out a new mount, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to go with it. But the simple mount, or the V style mount that Chris has been using for a bit, I've been trying it out, and he's showing me how it works.
It's pretty straightforward.
It does seem very simple, and I think it will really kind of help. The lasso situation works totally fine, and it's very functional, and it works. But I think at Attila and even at Casco earlier, there's just been a couple little like minor annoyances with the setup that has sort of like annoyed me a little bit. So I'm hoping that I can resolve or remedy those with this new.
Well, annoyances tend to annoy. I think that's just how it works.
I think that is what happens. But if I could be less annoyed during the race, I can focus on.
Well, and I'll tell again, this isn't a Gear Talk episode, but one of the reasons I like the simple mount is when it's not engaged, it's not like sort of dangling around like it does on the lasso mount. and that's like a personal preference thing, but it's nice to just I still kind of know where it is. It's not kind of getting bogged down and stuff. Which is
definitely.
So I think that's probably the biggest difference in the mounts.
Yeah, we'll have some videos coming out how to make your own and different pull buoy type stuff as well. Now that it is the off season, we have a little bit more time there. But
final
thoughts.
So I have several. One is for Ödyssey Swimrun. I mean, this race is so much fun.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about like positive vibes all weekend. It was really great. I mean, Lars, Aaron, everybody did an awesome job. Tons of volunteers, tons of kind of these little bonus water stations throughout the course.
Plenty of aid and nutrition, which was great. And it was precision fuel and hydration.
I know, so we were joking about it. That's almost like a home race.
Home race for us, which is really nice. We love that stuff. They had ample gels and nutrition and hydration at every single aid station. And some of them had a person manning them and some of them did not. But yeah, it was...
it was
done.
Great.
Well done by the Ödyssey team, of course.
They did awesome, and I'm so glad that we've done this race every year. And every time I'm just like, oh, that was just such a wonderful way to end the season. So thank you guys. Now, Ödyssey should mention they have a new race. It's coming up.
Registration's open today.
It's open today. It's March 5th. It's in Florida's Emerald Coast. The race is called Coastal Dune Lakes, and I tried it. I did this in service of the show. I went in and pretended like I was registering right now.
Mm-hmm.
Try to use the code Low Tide Boys to save 15%. Guess what?
It works?
It works.
Nice.
So you want to sign up. You want to go to Florida. The race looks really cool. Super different environment for swim running. I mean, the course is really interesting where you're swimming in these lakes and then kind of taking the little outlets that go to the Gulf. You're swimming the outlets and then running down the beach and then into the woods and stuff. It looks really cool. So, and you can see the hype video and all that stuff on YouTube. But kudos to Ödyssey for putting on another race. And I think we're trying to grow the sport. They're obviously trying to grow the sport. And it's like you have to hit a home run in every race. It feels right. There aren't that many to swing and miss, and they're just always just hitting.
They're always doing really well.
Yeah, they're doing it.
Major kudos to that. Also, we wanted to mention as well, really enjoying the Ödyssey socks, the swag game on point. So way to go. I think Aaron's handling all that sort of stuff. And the socks are cool. They're all the same pattern, but there's different colors for each race. So you can kind of do different races and collect them all, if you will. And then Chris and I have really been loving the long sleeve t-shirts after, instead of like a post-race medal or something like that, there's a nice long sleeve shirt, something a little bit different with a cool, unique logo for that race. So we've really been enjoying the Ödyssey events this year. So, and we can't wait to do more in the future, obviously.
Yeah, definitely.
What are my final thoughts? I mean, honestly, I wish I had more, I wish I had trained more. And I wish I could have brought a better pace and kept up with you a little bit easier. That would have been more fun for me. I would say. But overall, I had a lot of fun in the race as we always do. But yeah, I guess I'm a little disappointed in my own self, as my kids would say. In my own self.
Release you from any guilt that you might have. I mean, I think, I in thinking about final thoughts, I think it's tough because it's hard to put this race in a vacuum outside of everything else we've done, because it really feels like this year has just been this cumulative effort with, the big effort happening a couple of races ago.
Yeah.
And just our experience of swim running, not to get too like philosophical about it, like it's transitioning in a way away from just like, all right, let's like focus on one thing at a time and do all this stuff, to being like, okay, now we're kind of seeing it at the bigger picture. We're being more intuitive during races and things like that. And I think, it's an evolution.
Yeah. I mean, while I was disappointed in my performance, I had a ton of fun, and I will 100% stand behind that. We put two really good races together to finish the year up. Yeah. Swimrun NC, I am very proud of how we put that race together. And like you said, yes, maybe we didn't in terms of racing at like a pace that's our peak performance, so to speak. Yeah, maybe we didn't hit that in both of these races, but in terms of putting together 10, 12, however many different pieces there are of what makes a quote unquote a good or a bad race, I think we did a really good job of assembling the majority of those pieces for both of this race. And that like gives me a lot of really great momentum to take into next year's season and everything. And definitely keeps us really excited and motivated on that front for sure.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think, this year has been really special. And 5 swim runs in a year. I mean, not only is that a lot, it's also a lot of money.
Yeah. Now to pay all these credit cards off.
It's not easy to do. But yeah, again, to close it out at Swimrun Austin was just so much fun. That race is awesome. Can't recommend it enough. Actually, we're recording this on a Tuesday. Was DMing with Andrea Pender, and she was just saying how much fun she had and all this stuff. And I'm trying to be like, hey, you should try Casco, like all this stuff. And I mean, the fact that people are having positive experiences makes my positive experience
absolutely
that much more special. And yeah, I mean, it's also nice. Final thought. It's nice that we now have a little break where we can sort of turn our brain off from feeling like we have these commitments or things on the calendar that are sort of beyond ourselves. I think like if Chipper's signing up for a half marathon, it doesn't involve anyone. Like, it's just like, probably doesn't take as much mental energy as it is where it's like when we were doing swim runs, I feel like I'm, responsible for you, you're responsible for me. And that just adds like another layer of,
you're tired of being responsible for me.
I just don't want to be responsible, period.
Same. Well, that's what the off season's for.
It's tough being a parent.
But,
but wait.
There's more.
Oh my God. We totally have to mention this. So next week is our 100th.
Episode 150.
Episode 150.
I thought because today was 149.
Yeah, that's usually how that works.
I figured.
But we have a really special episode. So just mark it in your calendars. We'll be throwing out memes all week about it. And yeah, it's a really good one. So
we'll just say the tables are turned.
Yes, they have.
That's all.
That's it. Dun, 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 dun. You're really good at the pregnant pauses. You've gotten, you're so good at it.
I've been through 2 pregnancies.
Yeah.
So I have a little experience.
There you go. Well, that's it. That's a wrap for the season.
The Low Tide Boys are riding off into the Texas sunset after this race report from Ödyssey Swimrun Austin 2022. See you all out there in 2023.
You want to do like one last yeehaw?
Yeehaw!
Damn, so good.
Wow, thank you. Well, that's it for this week's episode. Thanks so much for listening to the show. Make sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts and leave a review, since that's the best way to help other people discover the show and the sport of swim run.
Sign up for our newsletter at lowtideboys.com. That's boys with a Z. And check out our meme page at the Low Tide Boys on Instagram. If you have any suggestions for the show or questions for us, send us a DM or an email at lowtideboys@gmail.com.
We'd like to thank Riding Easy Records for our show music, and of course our wives for their support and tolerance of all our swim run activities, podcast, and other stuff.
Yeah, other stuff. Way to keep it PG. Finally, you can support our efforts on Patreon. Until next time, get out there and go for a swim.
Go for a run.
Then another swim.
Then another run.
And then another swim.
And then another run.
And then just keep going. Until you're done.
Or maybe can't
stop.
Stuff.